Hello everybody. Here we're going to tackle a very interesting problem where we have 3 points plotted on a coordinate plane and we're supposed to find a fourth vertex to make a parallelogram RSTU. Now we know that R is at -2, -1, S is at right 2, up 1, and T is at 0, -3. First, let's go with the first obvious place. Somewhere around here, possibly. Let's use this point right here. Change the color here real quick. Okay. Possibly here. That could be one point for U. And let's go about finding this point U so that we're guaranteed it would be the point on this parallelogram right here. Okay, now property of parallelograms is that diagonals bisect each other. And so we're going to find the midpoint between R and S right here, because if we find the midpoint from T and U, they will share the same boundary right there. So we're going to go about finding the midpoint between R and S. So midpoint RS. Midpoint is real simple. It is simply the average between the two coordinates. Okay, so if I look at my R and S coordinates and average the x's, -2 plus 2 is 0, 0 divided by 2 is 0. For the y coordinate, 0, -1 plus 1 is 0, 0 divided by 2 is 0. So our midpoint is 0, 0. What I need to do next is find point T, the midpoint between T and U. But here's what's interesting. I now know where the midpoint is. I'm just going to make this line here to illustrate what I'm talking about. I know T is at 0, -3. I know my midpoint, call that M. It needs to happen at 0, 0. But I don't know this unknown coordinate for U. See, this is T, this is U. Okay, now here's our easy way to find endpoints if you're given the midpoint. A midpoint is exactly halfway between the two endpoints. So look at what happened here. If my midpoint is at 0, 0, and one of the endpoints is at 0, -3, look at the x coordinates, 0 and 0. They don't really go anywhere. So I know my U is going to have that same endpoint, x value of 0. Now look at 0 to -3. Didn't I go to get to that point? Didn't I go left 3, -3 this way? Midway, if I go to the other side, I have to go +3 the other way. 0 plus 3 is 3. Alright, so one possible value of U is 0, 3. Now, let's look at a different possibility here. Let's say I have R, S, and T again, and I could have U be somewhere over here. Well, I'm going to go through the same process again. However, this time I'm looking at the midpoint between S and T, and therefore that will be the same as the midpoint between R and U. Okay, so let's first find the midpoint of RU. Okay, between R and, oh, I'm sorry, how about that should be S and T, ST. Alright, so if I look at the coordinates for S and T, 2 plus 0 is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. That midpoint's going to be at 1. 1 plus -3 is -2, -2 divided by 2 is -1. So the ST midpoint is 1, -1. That's going to correspond to the RU midpoint. So I'll have a little diagram showing this very thing. Okay, let's say that's R. Let's say that's U. Here's the midpoint. I know it needs to be 1, -1. Alright, I already know R, -2, -1. Okay, so I need to count to find U. Alright, if I go from 1 to -2, I went -3. If I want to do that for the other way, I got to go +3. 1 plus 3 is 4. That coordinate is 4. And we'll go the other way. -1 to 1, I don't do anything. This coordinate is also -1.